My sister forced my wife to stop taking her medication. Now our baby's in danger. But my mom says it's not a big deal. I honestly don't even know where to start because I'm still shaking. My sister might have just endangered my wife and our unborn child's lives, and my mom is siding with her. What am I supposed to do with that? For context, I'm 26M, my wife is 28F, and we've been married for 3 years. She's 7 months pregnant with our first child, a baby we've wanted for years. My wife has a condition that requires her to take medication daily. I won't get into specifics, but it's a chronic issue she's had most of her life. Her doctor has been crystal clear that staying on her meds during pregnancy is non-negotiable. They keep both her and the baby safe, and stopping them carries serious risks. My sister, on the other hand, has been on this natural health kick for a while. At first, it was harmless, herbal teas, juice cleanses, whatever. But recently, she's gone off the deep end. She's joined these online groups full of people who believe medication is poison and that doctors are part of some big conspiracy. She's convinced she knows better than actual medical professionals now, and it's impossible to have a normal conversation with her. Everything turns into a lecture. 2 days ago, while I was at work, my sister, 32F, stopped by unannounced. Normally, that would annoy me, but I didn't think much of it. She and my wife get along well enough, so I figured they'd just catch up. But when I got home that evening, I immediately knew something was wrong. My wife was sitting on the couch, pale and fidgety. She didn't even look up when I walked in. I asked her what was wrong, and she just said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. She told me that my sister had spent the entire visit lecturing her about how her medication was poisoning the baby. That Big Pharma was lying to us. That my wife was harming our child by pumping herself full of chemicals. My sister was so relentless, so intense, that my wife broke down in tears. And then my sister said, "You can fix this. Just stop taking the pills. You don't need them." And here's the part that made my blood run cold. My wife listened to her. She told me she hadn't taken her medication that day and wasn't sure if she should keep taking it at all. She looked ashamed, like she expected me to yell at her. But all I felt was panic. I tried to stay calm and reminded her that her doctor prescribed the meds for a reason, that it wasn't safe to just stop taking them, especially not now. She nodded and said she'd start taking them again, but I could tell she was still shaken. She kept saying, "What if she's right? What if I'm hurting the baby?" It broke my heart. My wife has always been so strong, but pregnancy has made her more vulnerable, something my sister clearly took advantage of. I was furious. I called my sister immediately and asked her what the hell she thought she was doing. She didn't even apologize. Instead, she doubled down, saying she was just trying to protect her niece or nephew. She actually had the audacity to call me selfish for trusting doctors instead of doing my own research. When I told her to stay out of our medical decisions, she got defensive and hung up on me. I thought that was the end of it, just another fight with my sister. But then I called my mom, expecting her to back me up. Instead, she said, "Your sister's just trying to help. You're overreacting." Overreacting? My wife was in tears, terrified for our baby, because my sister played armchair doctor. And my mom thinks I'm the problem. I asked her how she could possibly defend my sister, and she just said, "You know how passionate she is about this stuff. She just wants what's best for the baby." I've been stewing ever since. My sister endangered my wife's health, potentially my baby's too, and my mom thinks it's no big deal. I feel like I'm living in some alternate reality where my family doesn't care about actual medical risks. My wife is back on her medication now, thank God, but she's still shaken. She keeps asking if I'm mad at her, and it kills me because she didn't do anything wrong. She was bullied by someone who should have been supporting her. I feel like I can't trust my sister or my mom anymore, but cutting them off feels so extreme. I want to protect my wife and baby, but I don't want to destroy my family over this. Update. I wish I could say things got better after my last post, but they didn't. If anything, it's like my sister and mom made it their mission to make everything worse. My wife's health spiraled, my family is completely divided, and I've hit my breaking point. Let me start with my wife. After everything with my sister, she agreed to start taking her meds again. I thought we were in the clear, but it turns out skipping even a single dose can mess things up. Her symptoms started creeping back almost immediately. At first, she seemed more anxious than usual, which I chalked up to stress. But then it escalated. Within a day or two, she was having trouble sleeping. She was jittery, emotional, and couldn't focus on anything. Her condition, again, I won't name it to protect her privacy, has always been manageable when she's on her meds. But without them, it's like the ground just falls out from under her. She kept saying things like, "What if the damage is already done?" And "What if I hurt the baby?" It was heartbreaking. We called her doctor, who was not happy. He explained that stopping her medication abruptly could have serious consequences, not just for her, but for the baby as well. He scheduled an urgent follow-up appointment, and sitting in that office, listening to him list out all the possible complications, I wanted to scream. This could have all been avoided if my sister hadn't decided to play doctor. And speaking of my sister, she wasn't done stirring the pot. After I confronted her and told her to back off, she went full social media warrior. She made a series of posts about how she saved her niece or nephew from being poisoned and how she had woken up the sheep, meaning me and my wife, I guess. She didn't use our names, but anyone who knows us could easily put two and two together. She painted herself as some kind of hero, while my wife and I were the villains, too brainwashed to see the truth. At first, I tried to ignore it. I figured it wasn't worth engaging with her nonsense. But then I started getting messages from extended family. Some were supportive, asking if we were okay, but others? They were parroting my sister's talking points. Why are you putting your baby at risk? Why can't you just try natural remedies? Do you really need those chemicals? One relative, an aunt I've always been close to, actually called me and said she heard my wife was addicted to pharmaceuticals, that we should be open-minded about alternatives. I almost lost it. I told her my wife isn't addicted, she's managing a medical condition with doctor-prescribed treatment. She tried to argue with me. I hung up on her. I have never done that before, but I just couldn't take it. And then there's my mom. Oh, my mom. The doctor told us we'd need to monitor my wife closely and scheduled an urgent follow-up appointment. Sitting in that office, listening to him list all the possible complications, I wanted to scream. This could have all been avoided if my sister hadn't decided to play doctor. And speaking of my sister, she wasn't done stirring the pot. After I confronted her and told her to back off, she went full social media warrior. She made a series of posts about how she had saved her niece or nephew from being poisoned, and how she had woken up the sheep, which apparently meant me and my wife. She didn't use our names, but anyone who knew us could easily put two and two together. She painted herself as some kind of hero, while my wife and I were the brainwashed villains who refused to see the truth. At first, I tried to ignore it. I figured it wasn't worth engaging with her nonsense. But then I started getting messages from extended family. Some were supportive, asking if we were okay and what was going on. Others? They were parroting my sister's talking points, accusing us of putting our baby in danger and demanding to know why we couldn't just try natural remedies. One relative, an aunt I've always been close to, actually called me and said she'd heard my wife was addicted to pharmaceuticals and that we should be more open-minded about alternatives. I almost lost it. I told her my wife wasn't addicted. She was managing a medical condition with treatment prescribed by an actual doctor. She kept trying to argue with me, and I ended up hanging up on her. I've never done that before, but I just couldn't take it. And then there was my mom. Oh, my mom. I went to her again, hoping naively that she'd step in and shut my sister down. Instead, she doubled down on defending her. When I told her about the social media posts, she just shrugged and said, "She's passionate. She didn't mean any harm." I asked her if she thought my wife getting sick was no harm. She sighed and said, "Well, maybe this is a sign you should look into other options. Your sister might have a point." A point. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife was literally suffering because of my sister's interference, and my mom was acting like it was some kind of wake-up call. I told her she was enabling my sister's behavior, and I was done trying to make her see reason. Her response? You're tearing this family apart. At this point, I feel like I'm living in a soap opera. My wife is struggling to stay healthy. My sister is running a public smear campaign against us. My mom is acting like I'm the villain for trying to protect my family. I've started wondering if I should just cut ties with them altogether, but the thought of losing my family makes me feel sick. Through all of this, my wife has been amazing. Even though I can see how much it's wearing on her, she keeps apologizing, like this is somehow her fault. I keep telling her it's not. I don't blame her at all. She's vulnerable right now, and my sister preyed on that. I blame my sister for planting those doubts in her head and my mom for backing her up. And the most infuriating part, my sister hasn't even reached out to check on my wife or the baby. Not once. She's so convinced she's right that she doesn't care about the actual consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, I'm stuck cleaning up the mess she left behind. The doctor has put my wife on a more intensive monitoring schedule to make sure the baby is okay. So far, everything looks fine, but there's still a risk of complications. I'm trying to stay optimistic, but every time I see her wince or grab her stomach, my heart stops. Final update. If you thought my sister convincing my wife to stop taking her medication was bad, you're not ready for this. I've uncovered something that has left me feeling like I never really knew my family at all. What I thought was just my sister's misguided obsession with natural health turns out to be part of something much darker. And now I'm done. Completely done. My wife is doing better, we're back on track with her treatment, and the baby seems okay for now. But the emotional damage my sister caused and the way my mom defended her has left me questioning everything about my family. And then I found it. It started with my sister's social media posts. After she went public with her heroic story about saving her niece or nephew from the poison of medication, I started getting more messages from family and friends. Most of them were just exhausting. Why don't you try natural remedies? Is there really no way to avoid chemicals during pregnancy? But one message stood out. It was from a cousin I'm not super close to, and she said, you should look into who your sister's been talking to. This isn't just her being her usual dramatic self. That set off alarm bells. I already knew my sister had fallen deep into some weird online health groups, but something about the way my cousin worded it made me wonder if there was more to it. So I started digging. I went back through my sister's old social media posts, comments, and even some group profiles she'd shared. And what I found? It shocked me. My sister wasn't just part of random Facebook groups about natural healing. She had been working with an actual health coach from one of these groups. A self-proclaimed expert with no medical background who pushes extreme and dangerous ideas. This coach had been feeding her all kinds of nonsense, from claiming prenatal vitamins are unnecessary to saying pharmaceuticals are the root cause of all health issues. But here's the kicker. My sister paid this person thousands of dollars over the last year. She's been funneling money into these consultations and buying their special supplements, which are basically overpriced herbs and powders that do nothing. And it gets worse. This so-called coach is the one who convinced my sister that it was her duty to intervene and stop my wife from taking her medication. This wasn't just my sister being overbearing. This was premeditated. I confronted her. At first, she denied everything. But when I mentioned the coach by name, her face went pale. She started stammering about how this person knows what they're talking about and how they're saving lives. I asked her if she understood that my wife could have died because of her interference, or that my baby could still suffer complications because of her actions. She just stared at me, like I was the crazy one. And then she dropped a bombshell. Mom agreed with me. She thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't believe her at first. I thought she was just trying to deflect blame. So I called my mom. I asked her, point blank, if she knew about my sister's plan to interfere with my wife's medication. She didn't even try to deny it. I didn't think she'd actually do anything drastic, she said. I thought she'd just talk to her. I was floored. My mom knew my sister was planning to interfere, and she said nothing. Worse, she supported it because she thought my sister might open our eyes to better options. My own mother decided her beliefs about natural health were more important than the safety of her daughter-in-law and unborn grandchild. And the final straw? I found out my sister and my mom are still in contact with that health coach. I saw texts on my mom's phone. She left it on the counter during a visit, where she was thanking the coach for helping our family see the truth. I took pictures, because I knew no one would believe me if I didn't. That's when I made my decision. I told both my sister and my mom that they were no longer welcome in my life, at least for the foreseeable future. I blocked my sister on everything. I told my mom that until she took responsibility for what she did and cut ties with that coach, I wouldn't be speaking to her either. They both freaked out. My mom cried and said I was tearing the family apart. My sister sent me a long email accusing me of being brainwashed and saying she only wanted to help. But I don't care anymore. I need to protect my wife and my baby. That's my family now.